Good. All right, perfect. Guys, so my name is Ahmad Stokes. I'm one of the sales leaders here at VisionNav Robotics. If you don't know who VisionNav Robotics is, you should definitely go by C4075. VisionNav Robotics is a global AGV AMR provider here in this space for material handling, but really focused on pallet movements, right? So non-value movements of full pallet loads. But what separates us, what we'll go through the slide, you'll see here another AGV providers, is our perception and our ability to handle unique payloads, right? But here we're going to talk about, maximizing your automation solutions to the fullest, right? So how do you scope it out? What are the key components of AGVs, and how do you maximize the efficiencies of your solution? So first phase is going to be key components, where we're going to dive into just the technology of AGVs, autonomous guided vehicles, autonomous forklifts. There's a lot of different acronyms getting thrown around the show. We're focused on forklift type systems, right? So not so much the deck loaders or Roombas of the world. We're looking at full chassis forklifts that can move pallets from point A to point B, stacking high heights and things of that nature. Then we're also going to dive into focusing on your application and how do you maximize your ROI, how do you do cost analysis, what are you looking for outside of just quote unquote reduction of headcount, so to speak, right? So when you think about forklifts, everyone has forklifts, right? Everyone has dock doors. Everyone moves pallets from point A to point B, whether you're in distribution, manufacturing, retail, logistics, you name it. Everyone is moving the clothes on our back, the shoes on our feet from point A to point B. That has been the tradition for the longest period of time. But we're slowly realizing that that is not the most efficient way to do such, right? So by show of hands, who's in this room right now because of labor shortages? You got one, I know there's more, two. What about maybe product damage, right? Safety, that's double, okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of different variables to start looking into outside of just the traditional, reduction of pallet movements within the four walls of your facility, whether it's distribution, manufacturing, logistics, et cetera. And slowly over time, we are all realizing now, right? If you look around this expo, for example, years ago, you rarely saw a robot, right? Now it's like everywhere you go, you see automation here, robotics here, right? And that slowly has been happening over the course of the last 10 years or so at a much rapid pace. There's always been traditional automation in AGV, especially in manufacturing, automotive facilities, but it's been gradually increasing over time through several mediums, right? Because of labor shortages or trying to be more competitive in your application or finding a better way. But we predict here at VisionNav Robotics by the next 20 years or so is going to be almost a third of global annual sales of material handling solutions. So right now you look at 2023, AGVs are only roughly 1% of the global forklift market. But we're predicting by 2028, almost 20% or more of automation, right? And that's the reason why you guys are here right now, right? You're already thinking, what's next here in this space. And that's really start automating your fleet and thinking about ways to maximize efficiency within the four walls of your facility. All right, you're late, so first row students. So key components of AGVs, right? They are chassis forklifts. Almost every manufacturer here in the show uses a chassis forklift, right? It looks very similar to the forklifts you have here in your facility, but there's several different components of the unit, right? And most of the time they're off-the-shelf components, 6 safety sensors, 2D LiDARs, 3D LiDARs through RoboSense or Ouster. They're all off-the-shelf compartments and different controllers that drive the vehicle, right? So starting off with positioning, a lot of questions come about of, how do AGVs work? How does it get from point A to point B? And most organizations are using, does anyone know what LiDAR is? LiDAR? Light detection and ranging, right? Or the SLAM algorithm that controls the perception. So 3D laser, LiDAR, maybe different image cameras or inertial controllers for steering and driving encoders, right? So different components to help navigate in the real world once it's deployed, right? So that's from a positioning standpoint. And then you have the controller that actually drives the drive motor, the lifting motor, the steering encoders on the vehicle. Again, off-the-shelf components that anyone can outsource and utilize. And then you have the perception. Here at VisionNav Robotics, we use a higher level of perception. So we do trailer loading, highway put away using 3D LiDAR perception and machine learning algorithms to perceive different payloads and racks. That's another outlook to utilize on a traditional AGV forklift. And then safety, right? Everyone has a safety director that's always constantly saying, I don't think we can automate this yet because how safe is it, right? automation is extremely safe. I would almost bet my life on it in certain circumstances, depending on the environment. But safety is top of mind at VisionNav Robotics, and amongst honestly all the vendors here in the show. And a lot of them are using different safety features like PLCs through SICK that are PLD or PLE safety rated. 2D plane LiDAR, 360 coverage around the vehicle, right? You want to make sure your provider is utilizing ANSI B56.5 as a safety standard here in North America. Or if there maybe is a global expansion to ISO standards and CE standards, right? You want to make sure all those components have some type of safety logic and standards associated to the devices. Again, off-the-shelf devices that are many players are here at this expo today. And then obviously earlier I talked about the chassis itself. Most are just standard forklift chassis and retrofitted essentially to make it autonomous. Now, given a lot of organizations utilize their own proprietary software to drive the vehicle. So that's where some organizations will start separating from themselves as far as perception and doing really complex scenarios in the four walls of your facility. So how do you look into automation? How do you evaluate your application, right? So do we have any 3PLs in here? How about some general manufacturing? And hopefully no foundries. Any foundries in here, or like concrete factories or anything like that? No? Okay, so those three applications are extremely different, right? 3PLs are mostly clean, right? There might be some pallet boards and some brie and stretch wrap on the ground. Manufacturing could be dusty, a little bit grime right here and there. And then foundry is just, that's a different world, right? So how do you evaluate the application, right? So perception and navigation is extremely important to the environment that the AGV system is in, right? So you want to understand, the ground flatness, right? You want to look into the environment, humidity, temperatures also will affect perception and navigation. No difference than everyone wearing glasses right now like I am, right? If I get a lot of dust and debris on there, I'm going to wipe them off, right? So understanding what the environment that the AGV is going to be implemented into and the environment and lighting and things of that nature is extremely important, and that's something that you should focus as well for a higher accuracy of picking and transportation. And lastly, when it comes to AGVs in your facility, integrating into infrastructure, right? So you guys may use conveyor system, ASRSs, machine PLC logic. That is something that you would think, hopefully, majority of the AGV providers have the ability to integrate to your facility infrastructure using those type of logics. Now, if you're in more of a 3PL, maybe a warehousing atmosphere, you need some inventory tracking, right? So does AGVs tie up to your upper system? Yes, they do, right? They have the ability to tie into your WMS, whether it's a homegrown system or maybe a SAP, Manhattan, Blue Yonder. Majority of organizations have Wi-Fi connectivity, open API, Modbus protocol, for example, to tie up to message into your inventory for tracking as well. Even barcode scanning, right? So if you guys have barcode scanning logic that's manually triggered at the QC area, that's another opportunity to utilize AGVs for triggering and mission demand, right? And then how that works is, your WMS is the upper system, the brain, so to speak. The AGV provider's fleet management system. Here at VisionNav, we call it the RCS, Robot Control System. That's our mid-level system that controls the activities that's inputted from your upper system. And it just translates down through the body of the AGVs. It tells the AGV to go to X location to pick, or stage a pallet at dock door 4, for example. All right. Service and support, it's extremely important too as well, right? What happens after the company sells you a product or a solution, right? You don't want them to just walk away and say, hey, good luck, Mr. Customer, I'll see you in 5 or 6 years. That's not good practice at all, right? So you want to make sure the organization has a good structure of support, of integrators, general manuals, integration protocol, project engineers and deployment team members to help assist and walk you through that go live date. And then most importantly, supporting you after the go live date, right? Whether it's 2 weeks, 30, 60 days on site, and then continuously meeting with you on a bi-weekly, monthly practice for KPI, continuous training, and things of that nature, right? Because as you guys all know, labor is tough to keep in one building, and you don't want to deploy a project and then have to train a whole new staff, typically every 2 weeks, a month or so, and that's something that most AGV companies will come in and help you guys out in that type of logic. Now, calculating your ROI is extremely important, right? That's usually, if it doesn't make sense figuratively is not going to make sense literally, right? So we want to make sure that we calculate an ROI. I like to always say that if you're running multiple shifts, that is goal number one, right? Single shift operations, frankly, do not make sense for AGVs or AMRs, right? Also, two, distance, which equivalates to square footage. I like to see facilities, personally, more than 250 square feet of warehousing or facility floor space, not including office space. That's just my own internal logic, because that means distance is dollars. The AGV can travel from point A to point B in a larger amount of time and get more value out of the equipment. And then also, two, you want to look into your manual labor, right? You want to follow the pallet. You want to understand exactly where each movement is in your facility, and then track how many people are utilizing that task, right? And it's almost like an equation, right? So you want to understand the operational costs manually after you receive a quote, right? Or before you receive a quote. So you know exactly what your annual operational cost is from a labor perspective, onboarding, training. Maybe it takes you, on average, every 3 weeks to hire a person. So what is that downtime cost as you're trying to find that labor, right? And then most importantly, a lot of people forget that an AGV is a forklift, right? You need to minus that manual forklift cost off of that solution, right? Because you no longer need that manual forklift now in your facility, because the AGV is essentially replacing that and the labor itself, right? And then you divide that out. So if you do have a 2 or 3 shift operation, right? So maybe you have 4 10s or 2 12s, things of that nature, and you have 2 or 3 people doing that manual task, maybe end of line conveyor to staging, or dunnage or replenishment or plant to warehouse across multiple shifts. And most importantly, have a high annual burden rate, right? So your all-in costs to employ that individual, right? That's wages, insurance, benefits, vacation. Think about overtime too, right? What does that overtime cost look like on a seasonality standpoint, right? And then factor all that into your operational costs and divide that out. So if you do have a good ROI, anywhere from 2 years or less, sometimes 2.5, right? Depending on the shift structure, you can have a feasible project. So again, you want to look for multiple shifts, large square footage, and then start understanding your operational costs. And that's from a hard cost savings perspective, right? Now, there's a lot of opportunities to look at soft cost savings to justify AGVs as well, right? You think about sustainability initiatives that most organizations have, right? Going green, things of that nature. For example, VisionNav Robotics, all of our vehicles are lithium-ion iron phosphate chemistry, right? So if you're utilizing lead-acid batteries now, or even propane, that's reduction of emissions, right? You can talk about the green initiative that you're saving of the reduction of CO2. So there's a lot of outside-the-box thinking that companies will work through outside of that traditional hard number costs, right? And then just breaking down what a forklift, autonomous forklift quote looks like, right? You're going to have the AGF itself, the forklift, right, the hardware. You're going to have the auto charging station and the battery package. You're going to have the standalone software. Here at VisionNav, it's non-reoccurring. It's a one-time fee. And then you're going to have maybe customization of software, especially if it's a WMS system, right? Typically, WMS integrated systems have higher costs associated, right? Or even warehouse deployments that have a reach truck, multiple pallet positions that need to be deployed, higher costs, right? Customization. And then the integrations are hardware if you utilize PLCs or photo eyes or push buttons, right? So all those items are going to be allocated into the overall deployment and commissioning costs of the solution. And then any type of on-site management, deliverable cost, project management, safety is going to be involved in that project as well. So now when you think about different ways you can automate your material handling facility, I always like to say follow the pallet, right? So you can envision your facility when a truck loads up to that inbound door. What is every single pallet movement in your facility, right? And everyone's here's pallet movements are different, right? You might go from QC right to staging. You might take it to another taping rate. No, you guys don't do that. Okay, maybe one day. You're almost there. Too much work. Okay, maybe get an AGV. You won't be that much work at all, right? So we'll dive into different real world scenarios, right? So here at VisionNav Robotics, we like to tackle as many use cases as possible, right? And I frankly think we can tackle almost 90% of your pallet movements in your facility. So some scenarios that we utilize right now is going to be trailer loading and unloading, ground to ground, high bay put away, stacking and destacking, especially in bulk, right? So 3PLs or warehousing up to 3 or 4 pallets high, potentially, and then traction, which is tugger, long milk runs, plant to warehouse, those type of scenarios. All right, so here I'm just going to dive into some of our projects that we deployed over the last several years, and maybe it'll get some of your brains going regarding what's out there and opportunity. The sound's off, but this is an opportunity that we deployed about 2 years ago with Coupang. If you guys know who Coupang is, they're in South Korea. They're like the Amazon over in Korea. We deployed 56 of our units in their one facility, doing ground-to-ground A to B movements across conveyance and elevators. Bloomberg actually did a really great interview on this project for us last year, so that was a really good opportunity for exposure. So again, the e-commerce, the 3PLs, right? Your biggest bang for your buck is going to be the non-value labor from point A to point B, right? That's maybe QC inbound to staging, to end caps, and then having the high bay manual operators as a phased approach continue to do that movement. Because typically in most facilities, high bay reach truck operators, tow truck operators are the highest cost and paid, right? It's a very skilled task to do. I've been in this space for almost 12 years and I would never dare get on a reach truck ever, right? So thinking about where the low-hanging fruits to automate, especially in 3PL long facilities, is that A to B, ground to ground. Now, when it comes to automotive, right, we have the ability, oh, my clicker's not working. Here in this bottom screen, you'll see the one video working of our automotive cage stacking, right? So here at VisionNav Robotics, we have the ability not only to handle GMA Chet pallets, Pico pallets, we have the ability to handle automotive cages and racks and really unique payloads, right, and rack systems. So we use our machine learning image cameras to understand the 4 posts and then stack on top of each other at height in bulk or into a high bay put away scenario as well, right? So the automotive, right, I know that's a huge scenario, whip, bringing racks to full body assembly lines, plant to warehouse. Those are great opportunities to automate your facility. Here's another high bay put away. This is actually a Tesla 3PL facility where we're moving bumpers and sideboard panels 36 feet high with our VNR reach truck. Right, so again, another opportunity to maximize your ROI with a high skilled move, right? This is a move that, as I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't want to touch, but we had the ability here at VisionNav Robotics to do the high bay put away into single selective racking. And I'll let this video play out a little bit. And we can operate within a 10.5 foot aisle here at VisionNav Robotics. And again, as you see on the screen, right, it's a traditional forklift, right? It just has these safety sensors, the visual, the software learning to facilitate it. So these type of systems don't look very scary, right? Some AGV AMRs don't look like forklifts. People might step away and be like, hey, this looks kind of concerning. Our systems are really operator friendly. They even have the ability to be manual triggered as well, right? So you can use the HMI screen, transfer over to manual with a password and key protected, and then drive it as a manual reach truck, forklift, pallet jack, etc. And then I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to do trailer loading and unloading with our sit-down counterbalance. So if you go to our booth C4075, you won't see this model. You'll see our new model, VNST20, doing trailer loading, but it's an autonomous pallet jack. So smaller form factor, lower cost, less weight on the floor, capacity of a trailer, right? So this is some petrochemical facility overseas where we're using our VNE20 to do side loading, right? So outdoor covered area doing wing truck, flatbed, side loading and unloading from conveyance here at VisionNav Robotics. So another opportunity, right? So I'm sure everyone has 53-foot trailers, right, and dock doors, right? Either using Pico or Chet pallets. We have the ability to do that trailer loading scenario for you guys here this year with unloading coming in 2025. And then thinking about plant to warehouse traction scenarios, here's our solution that we deployed using a heterogeneous fleet, right? So we have a full product line, pallet jacks, forklifts, tuggers, things of that nature, but we can all work on the same deployed map. So we can do handoffs, right? You can imagine autonomous forklift loading an autonomous tugger, sending a handshake, and then sending that tugger off, right? Or having a pallet jack load next to a forklift to do high bay put away, right? To eliminate or reduce that entire process from A to B, and then high bay. So you really want to look for opportunities to increase productivity and efficiency, right? On average, we're averaging around 20 to 30% improvements of that cost in all of our use cases deployed across our 450 projects. We have over 3,000 deployed globally here at VisionNav Robotics. And from medium-sized to large-sized projects, we're averaging anywhere from 2 to 3 months deployment. Now, the deployment time and cost, as I mentioned earlier, is dependent on the complexities of the project, right? So if you imagine a point A to B across maybe 5 or 6 lines, that's not much mapping and deployment costs. But if we're looking at maybe a 100,000 square foot facility area of 4-stack and bulk, that's several different pallet positions that we need to map out on our XY axis, right? So just more engagement, more time on site. So typically, the more complex your solution is from integration standpoint, the longer and the higher cost of deployment is going to be. And as I mentioned earlier, the average payback for us is anywhere from 2 to 1 years on average, right? Multi-shift, large footprint, and you have a pretty high all-in burden rate, right? No single shifts, right? Single shifts is never a good opportunity for automation. And even thinking about the future here at VisionNav Robotics, we have a great R&D roadmap. We've invested millions this year alone into the next phase of our software and hardware and bringing more advantageous scenarios here to MODEX and in our client base. And people are constantly asking me right now is, hey, can an AGV come up to a pallet and know what type of pallet it is in real time, right? So can an AGV come up and see a 40 by 48 pallet next to a 50 by 48 pallet and know on a dime which one it is? Today, we do not have that ability, right? There has to be some pre-programming logic, some change management, some sortation in the staging lane. But very soon, we'll be there, right? You think about open AI or visual GBT, those type of visual machine learning variables. We are investigating that right now in R&D, and very soon, in the next handful of years, we'll have the ability to, in real time, understand the environment and be prompted by what we're seeing, almost like how a manual operator does. Right now, AGVs and AMRs can do obstacle avoidance, but that's more in a controlled environment. And then they're thinking about how humans and AGVs and robotics interact through their software logic, right? So doing more ChatGPT prompts and type of coding logic to then cue the AGV through the RCS, through maybe voice command and things of that nature. That is also coming down the pipe, not just here at VisionNav Robotics, but across the robotic space to tackle more complex scenarios and challenges in the four walls of your facility. And then also to large modeling application. What that applies to is just how do we deploy AGVs at a lower cost and at a quicker scale, right? I think right now a lot of people get hung up on, hey, AGVs cost a lot of money, almost how flat screens were back in when I was like a little kid, right? Flat screens used to be like thousands of dollars. Now Target's giving away for free every Black Friday, right? So I think AGVs are slowly getting into that phase and logic and approach of lowering costs and making it more scalable. So that is the end of my time, guys. Again, my name is Ahmad Stokes, one of the sales leaders here at VisionNav Robotics. I'll be at booth C 4075 the remaining of today and the rest of the week. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to stop by and reach out to me. And I hope that this was valuable to you guys in your time. All right, thank you.